you don't have to burn out and vanish. You don't have to shrink yourself to stay consistent. Instead, just recognize the season, the growth, the plateau, the burnout, move with it, and then build the kind of business that lasts through every single one of them. Welcome back to On the Horizon. This is MelRose Michaels. I am your host, and I'm here to share what's worked for me in building my adult creator business to try to make building yours just a little bit easier. Let's get into today's episode. If you've ever had a month where you are just flying high and sales are up and fans are obsessed and your confidence is untouchable, and then the next month it's like the algorithm just forgot you exist. Your energy is in the gutter and you're literally questioning your entire life. Well, you're not broken and you're not failing. You're just in a different season of your business. Today, we're talking about the cycles that every creator goes through. The growth, the plateau, the burnout, and how to stop fighting the seasons and start learning how to move with them. This episode might just be the one that keeps you from quitting. So let's start by naming the truth. Your business is alive. It breathes, it grows, it evolves, it cycles. Just like your body, just like nature, and just like literally everything else that grows. And yet we're conditioned to believe that you should always be producing, always be scaling, always be on, especially as creators. And it's not sustainable. And it's also not that strategic. So the first thing I want to say is that there are 3 core seasons that I believe adult creators cycle through. We have number 1, which is kind of this growth season. You know, you're energized, your content feels really fun and really fresh, your sales are usually up, you're getting ideas faster than you can even act on them, and you're feeling really aligned and like everything you do is in demand. This is a season that you don't want to waste. So in this season, if you are here, you want to document your process. You want to build ahead. You want to stack and backlog content. You want to set up systems and try to capture the momentum, because the reality is it won't last forever. Now, the second season or cycle I think creators go through, and this is actually a season I'm personally in right now, is a plateau season. This is when growth slows or stalls. It's when you're consistent, but you're not super excited. It's often when you feel really stuck, even if there's nothing actually wrong. And you might feel a lot less, energized about what you're doing. It might seem like people are less engaged with your content, and maybe you feel less engaged personally yourself. And I think that this is where a lot of creators panic. But the reality is that plateaus, this is kind of where refinement happens. This is where you're meant to stabilize, to fix your systems, to audit the offers you're putting out, and also to reconnect with why you're a creator in the first place. Like, it's really easy, and I find myself doing this personally. It's really easy to be like, oh, this is so hard, and oh, it's so demanding, and oh, I'm on 24/7, and I'm accessible 24/7, and it's difficult, and it's challenging, and it doesn't seem like I'm growing, and you get into this cycle. But I can easily just think back to when I was a webcam model and that was my only source of income, and how if I literally was not online, I was leaving money on the table. Now with the business model we're in the season I'm in now with the fan sites and the subscription business model, I still make revenue even when I am offline. Like, I make subscription revenue, I make PPV unlock revenue for fans unlocking stuff that I sent out previously. I have clip stores now that exist that make me revenue passively. So things have evolved and my business has evolved. And I think that if you can think back to when you kind of really fell in love with this kind of work, or you really discovered what it means to be an adult content creator and got excited about it. Like, I remember when I got my first paycheck from live webcam, I remember being like, oh my God, this is the most money I've ever seen. I can't believe this is real. I can't believe every person on earth isn't doing this. Wow, like, this is such a life-changing moment for me. This is going to open up so many doors for me. And so when I feel myself really plateauing, I try to think back to that first check and like that first moment, because it's easy to lose sight of like all of the positives this work gives us when we're in the thick of it and when we feel like we're not growing. So we have first that growth season, we have then the plateau season, And then there's often a burnout season. And I think that in burnout season, you're often really tired, your sales feel really hard, and you're uninspired or even resentful, and you kind of start questioning everything. And this typically leads to me even questioning myself. But burnout isn't necessarily a weakness or a failure in my personal opinion. I feel like it's a feedback loop. It is a red flag that your systems aren't built or aren't currently supporting the growth that you're after or the growth that you're achieving. So I tend to believe that burnout happens when you stay in growth season for too long. And I want to also go back because there's something I forgot to mention about plateau season, because I do feel like so many creators really get stuck in this specific season. Growth seasons are usually short bursts, and plateau seasons usually are very long. Burnout seasons can be either. When you're in plateau season, again, this is when you're going to want to kind of revisit your systems, audit your offers, reconnect, but also you want to revisit your strategy. So when you are revisiting strategy, I want to just plug here, like we have this private creator community CEO society, and we talk about plateau seasons, and we talk about what we all do to get out of stuff like this. And we talk about, what's working for us and what isn't. And I think there's so much power in having a safe place like CEO Society to go to and to springboard ideas or confirm or validate or invalidate your beliefs about what season you're in. So like I can go into CEO Society and be like, is anyone having a hard time on this platform? Is anyone feeling sales are down generally right now or whatever? And I can collect feedback to help validate or invalidate whatever beliefs I personally am holding on to.
If you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, please take one moment to share it with another one of your adult content creator friends, because you know what the rule is here. We do not gatekeep, and we want to make as many adult creators' businesses as easy as possible. And you sharing this episode with them might do exactly that. Thanks so much in advance.
So knowing these 3 seasons, right? We've got growth, we've got plateau, we've got burnout. I think that, like I said, burnout tends to happen when you stay in growth for a long time. So I think this is when you should start to ask yourself what season you're in. So are you feeling excited or neutral or depleted? Are your results growing or coasting or declining? Is your energy expanding or stabilizing or shrinking? And like right now, personally, I feel that I am in a neutral place. I feel like I'm coasting. I don't feel like I'm growing. And I feel like I'm shrinking. So like that tells me I'm in a plateau. And there's no wrong season to be in. And I want this to be, a point that I drive home. The goal is just to be aware so that you can respond and react accordingly. It's not that there's wrong seasons. It's just things are cyclical. Like things do this. They live, they breathe, life happens. It takes your focus different directions. And I think it's important to know that that's okay. Like this is the way that this game is played. It's just what happens. And also, just because you might feel like you're in a burnout season doesn't mean that your content necessarily has to stop either. Like you can have your input and shift it. So for example, you might lean on more tools in a burnout season like GPTs.ai, to help you write video scripts faster, plan your promos or share for shares, or just help you feel creative in the way that you're replying to fans when your brain is tapped out. Because sometimes survival is the strategy, and that's totally valid. Now, what do you do in each season? I think this is something really interesting to outline because I feel like so many of the podcasts and the kinds of content I consume personally right now are so inspirational, motivational, and all of that. But I am a tactical person. Like I want to know what I can physically go do and put in action to impact whatever problem or challenge I'm facing. And so I really wanted to give you something tactical for each season so that you can take this episode and you can go actually act on it. So in a growth season, I think what it is most important to do is to batch content. It's to launch something if you're going to launch anything. It's to raise prices because if you're in a growth season, that means your demand is very high. You can probably price higher. If you're in a growth season, you can hire help. Maybe you need a virtual assistant or a personal assistant. You can start to build your team out when you're in a growth season. You can build automation. So this might be pre-scripting messages for things you get frequently asked about, or menus that you offer, or the types of customs you do. You can, auto follow your fans back by putting in some software and tools. Any automation you can for your business, I think that should happen during a growth season, because it usually comes with a price tag. Automation does, because you're using a software of some sort, and you should only be adding costs if you are in a growth season. And then also show your face more. Just post more volume when you're in a growth season. I recently was looking at this viral reel that popped off on this account that grew very, very quickly. And they were talking about how they post up to 13 reels a day. And I found that so interesting, because that's so much volume of content. But Instagram was actually rewarding them for posting so much volume of content instead of hurting them or hurting their visibility just because they were posting more. So I think things like that are important to note, because when you're in a growth season, you can actually do more. You can generate more volume across your platforms, and that in turn will grow you even faster. Essentially, a growth season is where you want to ride the wave. You want to build infrastructure that supports you riding the wave. This way you can get the most out of it. Now, in a plateau season, this is where you want to review your top performing content and replicate what works. So you're going to be auditing yourself. You're going to be looking closely at the tests you run, or the kinds of posts you're making, and the kind of results they're actually getting you. This is when you want to audit your prices. This is when you want to look at your messaging, any sales funnels you actively have. You might want to update your bios. I think sometimes refreshing bios is very useful. You might want to change out pinned posts. A lot of your fans and followers or subscribers aren't going to be seeing or even reading your pinned post anymore, because they're just so used to seeing that same pinned post. So it kind of becomes background noise. And then also your welcome message or intro messages. A lot of fans will subscribe not once, but twice, but 3, but 4, but 5 times. And they'll either let their subscriptions run out, or they'll cancel for various reasons. Having new, fresh welcome messages from time to time can go a long way to really re-engage fans. Also, really prioritizing connecting with fans deeply in a plateau season, I think is important, because when things are slower, you have a little bit more time to go deep with your audience, and that's going to keep them and keep their retention for longer. And then using your plateau season to simplify and to optimize. I have been personally going through the things I do and being like, is this life or death? Does this task need to be done? Can I directly correlate it to increase earnings or increase revenue? If I can't, should I still be doing this? And just saying no to more things so that you can cut things out, you can simplify, and you can optimize. Because plateaus are where real businesses are built, I think, because the other businesses that don't navigate the highs and the lows effectively, they're often the businesses that are just like a flash in the pan. They exist for a short period of time and they're gone. They're the creators that kind of dabble or are content create as a hobby. But you need to be able to weather the storm and to know what to do appropriately if you're trying to do this long term. Now, in a burnout season, I think it's important to strip your content down to bare minimum that's required to keep your pages and platforms alive. This is because you need to actually take care of yourself, and you need to kind of just bounce back and replenish. So when I say strip down your content to bare minimum, this is like your posting rate. How often are you creating new content? How often are you posting new content? I really love this 2-week formula I have for burnout, and I've gone over this many a times in our YouTube courses on the SWCEO YouTube channel. But typically for a burnout phase, week 1, I just will go ahead and I'll schedule out all rerun content for, say, like a 2-week period. And then week 1, I do nothing. I just recoup. Week 2, I shoot, edit, and schedule new content. I try to, at the bare minimum, get 4 new pieces or 4 new videos created in that second week, so that even if I'm posting 1 new video a week, I have a month's worth of content now. And I come back from my burnout 2-week, recoup session a month ahead. Because I think it's very important not to come back at break even, but to come back ahead, because you still have that buffer of recovery that you get then. So stripping down your content, removing energy leaks. So if there are DMs you hate, or there's customs you don't want to be doing, or promos that you don't think bring you value, remove all of that stuff. Just cut it out. Write to people, say, hey, I'm no longer offering you DM access to me. If you still want to enjoy my content, you're more than welcome. and then put them unrestricted or block or whatever. If there's customs that you don't want to do, don't take them, don't accept them. Like same thing with promos. If you don't think it's worthwhile, don't follow through with it. Just tell the other creator, like, it's not for me. In Burnout, I also think it's important that you use tools to automate and schedule. Use the queues, like use your platform's queues so that you can get scheduled out in advance. This is huge. If you are someone that's still trying to post in real time live, it's just so rare that that works for people. It's so rare that life doesn't get in the way, or internet connection doesn't get in the way, or someone stopping by your house doesn't get in the way. Like, the reality of running this business consistently, you really need to use the tools available. You need to use the scheduling. And then in a burnout season, the last thing is like, go outside, go touch grass, go be bored on purpose, make time to see people that make you feel good. I am someone who lives in a lot of isolation just because geographically, like, I live in a very small town far away from civilization, and it takes me 2 hours drive one way just to see my best friend. And so, like, I really have to prioritize going into town, like into the city, and seeing other humans and making sure I refill my cup. And it's so important to do. So I would say, like, if you are someone who creates a lot of volume of content, make sure you set some kind of gamification to it. Like, every 10 videos that you create, edit, and schedule, you plan, a best friend date at a coffee shop with your buddy or something like that. Like, you have to actually schedule time for you to just be you, like, to not have to be performing or performative in some sort or some way. And I think that that's fundamental, especially during a burnout phase. Now, the problem with forcing a season, I really liked this concept. The worst thing you can do, I think, is that you try to force yourself into the wrong season, or you try to hustle yourself out of a season, like out of burnout, because you're going to resent what you do. And I think a lot of us do this and we don't talk about it. And also, I think we start sabotaging as a result of this because we are so resentful and unhappy. Because, like, trying to grow aggressively when you're plateauing, you're going to burn out your audience and you're going to burn out yourself, because if you're in growth mode, trying to create more content, publish more stuff, and expecting your audience to buy more stuff, even though you're in a plateau mode and things are actually more stagnant right now, maybe your fans don't have the money to spend. Maybe they're in the midst of holiday, or tariffs are affecting them, or their business, or God knows what. But you can't, like, force being in a growth season that you're just not in. And then also trying to stay hot forever. You're like, that's just not how it works. That's not how markets work. Like, you have to realize that the work we do, we respond to a market. So no matter how hot your page is or how much activity you're currently getting, the market does still decide. Like, it decides what the fans do. It decides economically, like, what's available to all of us. So even though, we are recession proof and, these things get thrown around, we're still impacted. Like, the things going on in the world still impact how people spend their money, and therefore they impact adult creators. So I just think that you need to try really hard not to force seasons. Instead, recognize the one you're in and make the most out of it so you're prepared when the season or the tide changes. I think that there's, like, this way we could phrase it where if you understand what you're in or what season you're in, you can really capitalize on it. So knowing yourself, knowing where you're at, and also knowing it's okay to use this time to plan where you go next. Like, that to me is everything. And I've been the person that tried to force seasons. Like, I'm speaking from experience when I say that. And you do get burnout, or you do get resentful, or you do wonder why you're still in this work, or if you still want to be there. And you do question yourself and your life or career choices. And it gets really hard really fast. And then you're just overwhelmed altogether. So I think what's important is whatever season you're in right now, you really consider honoring it. If you are riding a high, ride it hard. If you're plateauing, stabilize your systems. If you're burning out, it is not the end and it is not over. Maybe it's just winter and spring is coming. You're allowed to cycle, and that's what powerful creators do. And if you want support figuring out what season you're in and what strategies will work in each one, don't hesitate to come join us inside the CEO Society. It's our private, closed community specifically for adult creators building real businesses. And it's where we talk and teach this kind of stuff in way more depth with accountability and structure and all the rest. So you don't have to navigate the ups and downs alone. But no matter what you do, I don't want you to give up. You don't have to burn out and vanish. You don't have to shrink yourself to stay consistent. Instead, just recognize the season, move with it, and then build the kind of business that lasts through every single one of them. I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
It would be absolutely incredible if you rated this podcast 5 stars and left a little review. We want to get this podcast to as many adult creators as possible, and you taking a second to leave a couple stars and a review really helps us do that. Thanks so much.